What is up, guys? With Chapter 4 Season 1 coming to an end, I wanted to make a review video. This is something I do pretty much for every season, where I kind of talk about my thoughts on this season, what I think it did well, what could have been better, and just in general, what I thought of the season. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of Chapter 4 Season 1, and if you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and if you would like to use me for a supporter creator when getting next season's Battle Pass, my code is just EvolveJake, like my channel name, and it's underneath the webcam at all times. The first thing we're going to talk about is going to be the loot pool for this season, and I actually really liked the loot pool this season. I think the biggest weakness of most of the Chapter 3 seasons was the shotguns, and like the way they were balanced just was not good. The striker pump at launch, I believe, hit for like 165 max on the gold one, or maybe 175, and that just wasn't very good. By comparison, the white thunder pump hits for 170 max, and it also shoots faster and I believe handles faster than the striker pump. So Chapter 3, the shotguns were down bad. We eventually got like the prime and the ranger, which were both like solid shotguns, but they had weird quirks where like the prime had to be fully loaded or the ranger had only one shot. The thunder shotgun is just a very solid shotgun, and it made this season a lot more fun for me to play than any of the other seasons, or any of the seasons in Chapter 3 at least. And that might seem weird, but as far as like what Fortnite does well, I think what Fortnite does better than every other shooter is the close range combat. If you were to just like take like the medium range fights where you're just like ARing people across the map, I don't think those fights are very satisfying in Fortnite or as enjoyable in Fortnite as they are in other shooters. But the close range combat in Fortnite is very good. Or like it's the part that kind of separates Fortnite from other games for me, and having a good solid shotgun that's fun to use is a big part of that, and the thunder shotgun nailed that for me. I also think the red eye is, you know, it's a solid AR. The tactical pistol is incredibly good, and I really like using it. The twin mag SMG is very good, but also somewhat balanced, because if it's small mag, I feel like Fortnite has really struggled to balance SMGs and like kind of have them be usable, but not have them be incredibly broken. And I feel like the twin mag is somewhat of a nice like middle ground, but it's definitely more on like the OP side. In general, I just think the weapons this season are very solid and much better than most of the Chapter 3 weapons were, for me at least. And I also think the shockwave hammer was very good. I know it's a very divisive item because some players hate the hammer smash and just somehow we're losing to that all season. I didn't really have that problem as much. I liked it as a mobility item. Personally, I enjoy having mobility in Fortnite. So I think the loot pool was like very solid this season, and much more enjoyable to me than any of the other seasons, or any of the seasons in Chapter 3. Augments were also a new addition that came in Chapter 4 that definitely changed the game, and one nice thing about them, I think, is it can change your strategy from game to game depending on like the augments you get and the items you're using and how you want to play. Like, for example, when I didn't get a hammer, sometimes I would run the shockwave bow. If I was using the Maven shotgun, then I really wanted to have the shotgun striker like siphon augment, you know, light fingers, pistol amp. There's a lot of augments that were like kind of geared towards whatever playstyle you had. And I think augments are a somewhat nice addition in terms of like the content Epic can add to the game, and also making every game feel kind of different. But also some of them were very broken, and it just like made the game worse. So like personally, I'm on the fence about augments. I know a lot of people love them, but I kind of would prefer the game without them. I feel like just being able to roll storm mark and then have a ping every time zone closes is very broken. Having forecast and in-game is very broken. One nice thing about them, I think, is like they did add some items to the loot pool without really like ruining RNG. So like the more things that are in the loot pool, the more random early game becomes, or the more unlikely it is that you'll find the thing that you actually want. But having augments that give you specific items, like the TAC AR and combat shotgun one, for example, if you really enjoy those items, you can go for that augment. The balloons one, if you like balloons, you can get that augment, but it's not like they're just ruining the loot pool, you know? And I really like that addition. I would just like to see augments kind of like toned down in the future, like kind of have more of them be like kind of like slight benefits or somewhat neutral benefits, kind of like Bush Warrior. It's not that big of a deal. Light fingers isn't that big of a deal. The one that reloads shotguns when you sprint. There's one that like makes it to where your sprint regens when you mantle. Things like that aren't that big of a deal, but they're kind of nice to have. And I would like to see the augments be more like that than things like forecast and storm mark and things of that nature. The map this season, I think, is just okay. This is probably the weakest aspect of Chapter 4 for me. I'm not sure how I would rank it amongst other Fortnite maps at this point in time, but it's like an okay starting point. Like, I don't think it's terrible. It's just not great. We didn't really get any map changes this season, which I don't think is required in Season 1. Like, obviously, the entire map is new. They did add the vaults during the Most Wanted update, which we'll kind of get to later. And map changes in general are just, like, the content I'm always looking forward to most in a new Fortnite season. So the lack of map changes isn't that great for me, but like I said, when it's Season 1, it's not that big of a deal for me. Most Chapter launch seasons didn't have mid-season map changes. Chapter 2 didn't, to my knowledge. Chapter 3, they added Tilted mid-season, but it wasn't even really like they added it. It was just that like Tilted was there the entire time and it was frozen, and we just couldn't access it until like the anniversary of Tilted. So it was there at launch. It was just like kind of withheld to us, and while that can be nice as a map change, I would rather just get what we're going to get rather than like having nothing there for a period of time, you know? Like, imagine if Anvil started out frozen and then we had to wait until mid-January for it to go there. It just like, we all know it's there. We all know it's going to be playable. It was just kind of weird. So I think the map is okay. It's a decent starting point. If seasons come and go and we just are still playing on this exact map when there isn't very many map changes, kind of like how Chapter 3 was, that would be bad, but I think the map is just okay. As far as updates go, I think there was like a good consistent flow of content throughout the season, which is really solid. It's another way I kind of judge Fortnite is how frequently it's updated, which might not be the most fair thing to do, but that's kind of what we came to expect. If you're someone who is playing this game in Chapter 1, there's like constant updates. Chapter 2, not so much. I feel like they did a better job of it in Chapter 3 than Chapter 2, and then this season was just fine as well. What I really want to talk about, though, is a Most Wanted update. As far as, like, mid-season or late-season updates go, I think the Most Wanted one is, like, the most significant of any season that I've played. And it was only, like, a 2-week update. It was a very unique update that they, like, worked hard on, probably, just for 2 weeks. And it really shaked the game up at, like, a perfect time. Because when we're late into the season like that, it came out with 3 weeks left to go in the season. And that's always, like, the most stale time to play the game. But Most Wanted dropped. Those 2 weeks were really fun, and then we had 1 week without Most Wanted where it's kind of like, you know, back to normalcy. But I think this was great, and this is something I would definitely like to see them do going forward. I feel like this is like a massive improvement over like what Wild Weeks were, because I feel like Wild Weeks were kind of a similar idea that's like, hey, we're getting late in the season, let's mix it up a bit. But like the Wild Weeks always just felt so lame to me. Like it'd be like, oh, it's Fire Week and now everything's on fire. Or I think there was like Balloon Week one time, or like Bow Week. It never really felt like that unique and that exciting to play. It was just like, okay, this annoying item is unvaulted for a week. But with Most Wanted, they added a bunch of new items to the loot pool, or a bunch of old items, sorry. They added the new exotics, they added the vaults, they added the heat system. Like, it made the game feel very different for those 2 weeks, and it was really, really fun to play. It really shook the game up. I hope we see more updates like that going forward in Chapter 4, and less of, like, the old style of Wild Weeks. The build-up for the next season, I think, was also very good. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of the Fortnite storyline, or, like, the overarching Fortnite storyline, but I really care about, or what I really care about when it comes to that is kind of, like, how they set up the next season. And this is kind of hard to talk about because, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of the Fortnite storyline, but when there's like clues happening on the map, or like changes or things happening on the map that kind of set up what's going to happen next season, that makes the game way more fun and exciting to play for me personally. The best example of this, or an easy example of this, is Chapter 1, Season 3. The meteors kind of came, like there was like telescopes on the map, there was a meteor in the sky, and then eventually meteors started like falling and destroying stuff in the middle of the game. And then Chapter 1, Season 4 comes, the meteor collides with the map, and we get Dusty Divot. Like, things like that, I think, were what made Fortnite Fortnite. And I feel like some seasons really lost that, but I think the build-up for this season has been very good. So with this season, we had the Rift Gate being built and assembled. And then if you do the challenges, there was, like, kind of the storyline of, like, Amy wanting to save the 7, things coming back through the Rift portal and being evil, and what I assume will happen with the Rift Gate based on leaks is that it's going to malfunction, and in some way that is going to bring in the changes of next season. So I think the build-up or the setup for next season was really well done. Obviously, there wasn't a live event, which isn't ideal, but as far as like seasons without events go, I think the setup for this season was very good. It's always kind of just weird or not as fun when like we're a week out from the new season. We know nothing about it. There hasn't really been any acknowledgement from Epic about it, and then it just like comes out. I think the season did a really good job in that regard. And so my final score from this season is going to be like 8.5 to 9, I think, somewhere in there. I really, really liked this season. I think it's a very good one based on the leaks of season 2. I think we're getting a lot of content that season. And like, if a lot of those leaks turn out to be true and like solid and we actually get that much content, I think Chapter 4 Season 2 could go down as like one of the best seasons ever, probably. But I think Chapter 4 Season 1 was very good. I think it was paced well. The map was okay. The loot pool was much better than Chapter 3. We got augments, which was okay. They set up the new season somewhat well. And we got the most wanted update, which as far as mid-season updates go, it was crazy. It was very good. I know for some players, the bugs may have ruined it, but I didn't really experience those that much. Like the sprint bug, where you just loaded into a game and couldn't sprint. I never really had that. The mantle bug, I think some people got where you just couldn't mantle. I don't think I ever had that. The only bugs I really got would be like the FOV bug, where sometimes your FOV messes up and you have to crouch to fix it, or the recent sprint bug where like you're stuck in the sprint animation even though you aren't sprinting, and it's just like an animation thing. It could be disorienting in a fight, but most of the bugs I've experienced this season weren't the biggest deal to me. So it doesn't really detract from my experience. I'm sure if you were getting the sprint bug every game, that was very frustrating, but yeah, that is my thoughts on this season. Let me know down in the comments below what you would give Chapter 4 Season 1 out of 10, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.